At 17, my adoptive sister accused me of getting her pregnant. My family threw me out, my girlfriend left me, and I disappeared. 10 years later, the truth came out, and they showed up crying at my door. I didn't open it. Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be the guy to write something like this, but after what happened a decade ago, I guess I just need to get it out where someone might actually listen. My family erased me overnight because of a lie. And now, after all this time, the truth has finally come to light. I'm not looking for sympathy, I just want to tell you how it all went down. I, Jackson, 27, male, was 17 on the night my life ended without me actually dying. We were at one of those big Saturday dinners. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. My parents loved to put on a show when the house was full. My mom was in her element with so many people watching her, talking loudly, bragging about how close-knit we were. My dad was grilling outside while my brother and I brought chairs in from the garage, and there was Anne, my adoptive sister. My folks brought her home when she was 8 because they wanted a little girl. From day one, she fit in perfectly quiet, polite, shy. I helped her with her homework, taught her how to ride a bike, and even stood up for her when kids made fun of her for being adopted. I never saw her as anything other than my sister. That night, she was acting weird. She wasn't eating, just fidgeting with her hands. I thought maybe she was sick or tired. After dinner, when everyone was in the living room, she suddenly stood up, trembling, and said she had something to tell everyone. I remember her voice. It was cracking as if she were about to cry. Then she let it out. Jackson forced me. I didn't even process it. Everyone froze. The only thing breaking the silence was the ticking of the clock. My brain couldn't make sense of it. I thought she was talking about something else, maybe a joke gone wrong, maybe she was confused. Then she added, "I'm pregnant." My dad's hand grabbed me before I could even open my mouth. His fist hit my face so hard that my vision went white. I hit the floor, my teeth rattling, my ears ringing. My mom started screaming like someone had died. My brother just shook his head, muttering, "Jackson, what's wrong with you? You're disgusting." "Dad, I didn't," I tried to say, but the second punch landed before I could finish. "You sick son of a bitch," he yelled, his face red, his eyes wild. "You brought shame on us." And was crying in my mom's arms, shaking, saying she was scared. My aunt held her tight, whispering, "It's okay, sweetie, you're safe now." My brother Jake took a step forward and spat next to my shoe. "Get lost," he growled. "You don't even deserve to breathe the same air as us." I looked around. Faces I had known my whole life. None of them looked at me like family, only with disgust. "She's lying," I said, my voice breaking. "I swear on my life, she's lying." Nobody cared. My mom screamed, "Don't you even say her name. Don't you talk to her." Someone, I think it was my uncle, called the police. When the officer arrived, I was on the porch, my mouth bleeding. One of them asked my dad if I was the suspect, and he nodded without looking at me. They didn't cuff me tightly. They could see I was just a kid who looked half dead, but riding in the back of the car with the sirens blaring still felt like being buried alive. At the station, they asked me questions I could barely understand. When did it happen? What were you doing that night? Did she say no? I kept repeating that nothing ever happened. They didn't book me. There was no proof, nothing. They released me in the morning. I remember one of them muttering something about a statutory rape case. Anne was 16, I was 17. Barely a year's difference, but they still had to ask every question in the book. They took statements, called a social worker, checked our phone logs. In the end, there was nothing to hold me on. They sent me home with a warning to be available for more questions, but by the time I walked out, the town already knew. It wasn't a big place. By sunrise, half of it had already condemned me. I didn't go straight home. I walked until my legs gave out. When I finally got there, all my things were piled up on the lawn: clothes, schoolbooks, even my backpack. My dad was standing in the doorway like a guard. "Get out," he said. He didn't sound angry this time, just cold. "It's over." "Dad, please, you know me, I would never, don't call me that. You're not my son anymore." I tried to get to my mom through the door. She turned her face away, hugging and as if she were the victim of a crime. Jake slammed the door shut. I just stood there. My hands were shaking so much I could barely pick up my backpack. That night, my cell phone rang. It was Emma, my girlfriend. We had been together for a year. She knew me better than anyone. She whispered through tears, "I believe you, Jack. I swear, but my parents won't let me talk to you. They think it's true. They said if I see you again, they'll call the cops." "Please, don't do this," I said. She sobbed. "I'm sorry. I can't. I can't lose them." She hung up. I stared at the screen until it went dark. It was the last time I ever heard her voice. I spent the night in my car behind a gas station 2 towns over. I watched the rain run in crooked lines down the cracked windshield. In less than 12 hours, I had gone from being a normal kid with a family, a girlfriend, and a future to a criminal in everyone's eyes. Every time headlights passed, I thought it was my dad's truck, coming to finish what he started. But no one came. When the sun came up, I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My face was bruised, my shirt still had blood on it, and I understood something simple but final: no one was coming to save me. My family hadn't just thrown me out, they had erased me. That thought settled in my chest like a stone. I drove all night with no plan or map, just the clothes on my back, a backpack, and $200 I had in my wallet. I kept going until the gas light blinked red. The engine sputtered to a stop near a sign that read, "Welcome to Maplewood." I didn't care where I was. I pulled into a parking lot behind some half-abandoned stores. My hands were shaking from hunger and cold. I'd been living on chips from vending machines. A "Help Wanted" sign was taped to the window of a diner down the street. I stared at it, mustering the courage to go in. The bell chimed as I opened the door. A man stood behind the counter, broad shoulders, a gray beard, deep wrinkles. "What can I do for you?" he said, his voice as rough as gravel. I saw the sign," I said. "I'll wash dishes, whatever you need." He looked me up and down. Wrinkled clothes, shoes caked with mud from the road. "Ever worked in a kitchen?" "No, sir." He grunted. "You look hungry." "I'm fine," I lied. He sighed and pointed to the back. "Name's Andy. Sinks are back there. You start now. You eat after your shift." That was it. No questions, no paperwork, just work. The kitchen was small, loud, and hot. I scrubbed plates and pots until my hands were raw. The first meal Andy gave me was half a hamburger and some fries a customer hadn't finished. I didn't care. I ate it like I hadn't seen food in weeks. At closing time, I tried to give him back the plate, saying I'd find a place to sleep. Andy dried his hands and said, "There's a room upstairs. It ain't pretty, but it's got a bed and a lock. You can work it off." It was the first act of kindness I'd received in weeks. The room was tiny, maybe 10 by 10 feet, with a stained mattress, a single flickering bulb, and wallpaper peeling at the corners. But it had a roof, and the floor didn't move. I collapsed on the bed and slept for 14 hours straight. In the following days, I found a rhythm. Andy didn't talk much, but he'd offer grunts of approval like, "Good job." Those words were worth more than any apology I could have received. One night, about 2 weeks later, I came down to lock up and found him sitting at the counter, reading the paper. He looked at me and said, "Kid, what's your story?" I froze. What do you mean? A trucker came in today. Said he saw your picture in a paper a couple towns over. Something about a family matter. My stomach dropped. I started to tremble. It's not what it looks like. It's a lie. My sister, the adopted one, she made it up. I swear, I never. Andy held up a hand. Easy, kid. I don't give a damn what they say. You're here, you're working. That's what counts. Keep your head down, do your job, and rebuild your life. The rest will sort itself out. It took me a while to process that. For the first time since that night, I didn't feel like a monster. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the cracked wall, trying to take it all in. Andy didn't know me from Adam, yet he gave me a chance. My own family couldn't do that. One night, I went through my contact list. I hesitated before calling home, but I needed to hear my mom's voice. Maybe enough time had passed, maybe they'd realized. She answered on the third ring. Mom, it's me, I said softly. Silence. Jackson. Yeah. I just wanted you to know I'm okay. I found a job. Don't call again, she said, her voice cracking. Your father doesn't even want your name spoken in this house. She hung up. I stared at my phone until the screen went black. That was the last time I tried. Weeks turned into months. I worked double shifts and saved what little I could. Andy started teaching me little things, how to fix a leaky faucet, patch a screen door, check a thermostat. Learn to fix things, kid. It's the only way to survive, he'd say. One night after closing, curiosity got the better of me. I searched Anne's name. There she was, smiling in photos, a round belly, the family gathered around her holding pink balloons that said, "It's a girl." My mom stood beside her, beaming proudly, holding a cake shaped like a baby carriage. My brother was in a corner, laughing as if nothing had ever happened. It burned in my throat. My stomach twisted so tight I slammed the laptop shut. That night, I decided I wasn't Jackson Smith anymore. Something inside me switched off. I stopped explaining, stopped hoping someone would come to their senses. I was done being the version of me they had buried. I threw myself into the diner. I'd arrive before dawn and leave long after closing. I fixed leaky faucets, cleaned grease traps, and learned to change filters in the old vents. Andy noticed. One afternoon, while I was unclogging a sink with half my arm down the pipe, he said, "Ever think about learning this for real?" I looked at him, confused. Like, plumbing? He chuckled. No, bigger. Heating, refrigeration, air systems. HVAC. People always need to be warm or cool, kid. A trade like that will feed you forever. It stuck with me. I was tired of washing dishes. I wanted something that would last, something they couldn't take from me. A few weeks later, Andy handed me a flyer for the community college down the highway. Night classes, he said, sliding it across the counter. You do well. Pay what you can. I'll cover the rest, till you're on your feet. I stared at the paper for a long time. No one, not even my own blood, had ever offered me something like that. I enrolled the next day. The first few months were brutal. I'd work 10 hours at the diner, then take a bus to night school, fighting to stay awake during lectures on compressors and coils. Every time I fixed something, every time cool air flowed from a vent, every time a broken unit roared back to life, I felt a rush, like I was repairing myself, piece by piece. Andy kept pushing. Don't just be good, he'd say. Be so good they can't ignore you. By the time I earned my GED, I was halfway through the HVAC course. I started doing odd repair jobs: Andy's house, the diner's vents, a few regulars' places. When my certificate came in the mail, Andy framed it and hung it in the diner's hallway like it was from his own son. Not bad for a runaway, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. I laughed, though the words still stung. With Andy's help, I saved up enough to buy a used pickup truck and a set of second-hand tools. I left the diner. One summer afternoon, a coworker named Derek was accused of stealing cash from a client's countertop. The boss was ready to fire him on the spot. Something in Derek's face, the same panic I'd seen in the mirror 10 years ago, made me step in. "Check the vent," I said. Everyone looked at me. I climbed up, popped the cover, and there was the envelope, half sucked into the return duct. The client had left it too close. Derek nearly cried. The boss apologized to the client. Afterward, Derek shook my hand like I'd saved his life. Andy heard about it from a supplier and called me that night. "Good job, kid," he said. "You didn't just fix the air, you fixed a mess." That's what separates the men from the mechanics. The words stuck with me. The years passed like that: work, sleep, eat. Work again. Simple, predictable, safe. But sometimes, coming home at night, I'd feel a hollow space inside, like there was still another life buried somewhere. One night, while doing invoices, I opened an old account I hadn't touched in years. My hands trembled as I logged into social media. I shouldn't have. There they were, me family, laughing, smiling in front of a birthday cake with a girl who looked about 10. Her daughter. My mom held her in her arms. My dad had his arm around them like nothing had ever happened. My brother was in the background, grinning as if he'd never spat at my feet. The caption read, "Happy birthday to our miracle girl. Family is everything. Family." I kept scrolling until my chest ached. And looked happy, radiant, as if she'd never ruined anyone's life. I slammed the laptop shut and sat in the dark, shaking. For years, I had imagined them falling apart without me, but they hadn't. They had just replaced me. That night, I sat in my truck in the parking lot after a shift and made a decision. I went home, deleted all my old accounts, every trace of the name Smith. I cut off the past like snipping a loose wire. The next morning, I filed the paperwork to legally change my name. Jackson Winter. It was my grandmother's maiden name, the only one who had treated me with real kindness before all this. When the new ID arrived weeks later, I stared at it for a long time. The photo looked different, harder, stronger. I wasn't a kid anymore. That day, I stopped running from what they did to me and started building something they could never break. 10 years later, I had my own company, Winter Heating and Air. Just a couple of vans, 3 employees, and a steady list of clients who trusted my work. We weren't fancy, but we were reliable. Life had finally stabilized. It was early summer when everything broke all over again. I was fixing an old unit behind a bakery, sweat dripping down my back, when my phone started vibrating non-stop in my pocket. Unknown number, my old area code. I ignored it twice. The third time, it kept ringing. I wiped my hands and answered. "Yeah, Winter speaking." Silence for a second, then a voice I hadn't heard in over 10 years. "Jackson." My chest tightened. "Who is this?" "It's me. Emma." I froze. Everything around meth wore of the fan, the passing cars disappeared. "Emma, how?" She sighed. "I know I shouldn't be calling, but I thought you should hear it from someone who actually believed you." That sentence alone closed my throat. She continued, "And was arrested." I blinked. "For what?" "For lying," she said. "For accusing another guy, just like she did to you." I leaned against my truck, dizzy. "What?" This time, the guy fought back. "Hired a lawyer and everything. It turns out she made it all up again, and during the investigation, she confessed about you. She said she lied back then, too." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I had dreamed of hearing something like this for years, but it didn't feel the way I imagined. There was no relief, just emptiness. Emma's voice trembled. She said and got pregnant after a one-night stand with a local dealer named Vernon. He disappeared when she told him. She panicked and pointed the finger at you because you were there, and everyone believed her. Jackson, your name is cleared. Officially. I couldn't speak. My hand went numb holding the phone. She hesitated. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry it took so long. Thanks, I said quietly. Before I could say more, she whispered, I'm married now, with kids. But I never forgot what they did to you. I managed a faint smile, though she couldn't see it. You were the only one who believed me, Emma. You don't have to feel bad about that. We talked for another minute. It was awkward but gentle. Then she said goodbye, and that was it. I sat in my truck for almost an hour, just staring at the steering wheel. I didn't know if I wanted to scream, cry, or laugh. My name was cleared, but it was 10 years too late. The next morning, the calls started. Private numbers, then emails. Even my company's inbox got one with the subject line, please call us. Curiosity got the better of me once. I answered a number I didn't recognize. Jackson, a trembling voice said. I recognized it instantly. My mom. Don't hang up, please, she said quickly. And told the police everything. We didn't know. I hung up. They didn't know. They didn't want to know. That week, a local paper asked me for a statement. I said nothing. I wasn't interested in headlines or pity. I wanted something better, silence. But the silence didn't last. My brother sent me an email saying he was young and stupid and hoped we could start over. My dad left a voicemail. We just want to see you, son. We made mistakes. Mistakes. Forgetting a birthday is a mistake. What they did was a choice. Instead of replying, I wrote letters. Not the ones they were expecting. No forgiveness, no gentle words, just the truth. I told them about every night I shivered to sleep in my car, about the moldy room at the diner, about Andy, the stranger who gave me shelter when my own family threw me on the street. How I burned my high school ID because their last name made me sick. How it felt to see photos of them smiling around and her daughter while I was scrubbing grease from diner vents. I told them they didn't just ruin my reputation, they killed my home, my trust, and any piece of peace I had left. I ended every letter the same way, you didn't believe me when I told you the truth. Now you get to live with it. I never sent them. I put them in a shoebox and left them in a desk drawer. That night, as I reviewed invoices in my workshop, I looked around. The tools, the vans, the company name painted on the wall all built with my own hands. What I lost was gone forever, but what I built, no one could take from me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel erased. I felt rewritten not by them, but by me. But peace doesn't stay quiet for long. When the truth about and spread through town, the same people who had thrown me away suddenly remembered I existed. It started with a knock on my office door one afternoon. I was fixing a thermostat unit on my desk when I heard it. Jackson. I went rigid. I turned, and there she was. My mother. She looked smaller, older, as if the life had been sucked out of her. Gray hair at the roots, her hands trembling as she held a casserole dish covered in foil. I made your favorite, she said softly. Chicken and rice. You used to love it. For a second, I couldn't move. The smell hit me and my stomach turned. I remembered the last time she made it night before everything exploded. I stood up slowly. What are you doing here? Her eyes filled with tears. I just wanted to see you. To say I'm sorry. We were wrong. And lied. We know that now. I leaned against the counter. You're 10 years too late. She sniffled. I didn't know what to believe back then. She was crying, and your father," I cut her off. "You didn't ask me. You didn't let me speak. You threw me out and told me never to call again." She took a step forward. "Please, Jack, don't call me that," I snapped. "You lost that right." She flinched as if I'd hit her. I pointed to the door. "Get out." She hesitated, then set the dish on the counter. "At least eat it, please." I stared at her. "Throw it out on your way out." When she closed the door, I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity. Nothing. 2 days later, my dad showed up. I was out on a service call when I saw him waiting outside my office, leaning against his truck like he owned the place. He smiled as if we just had some minor argument years ago. "Hey, son." I didn't answer. "You've done well for yourself," he said, looking around. "A business, vans, employees. I'm proud." "Get to the point," I said. His jaw tightened. "Your mother's not doing well. She cries every day. I thought if we got together, we could clear the air." "Clear the air?" I almost laughed. "You beat me and you threw me out. You left me on the street. You cleared the air that night when you said you weren't my father." He sighed, annoyed. I was furious. "You have to understand, it was a different time. It looked bad." "You mean you hit first and never asked questions?" His face tensed. "You don't have to hold on to hate, son." "I'm not holding on to hate," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm holding on to self-respect." He frowned. "What are you?" I pressed a button. "Security. I have a trespasser out front." Large man in a red jacket. His expression changed instantly. "You're calling security on your own father?" "You're not my father," I said. "You're a stranger who ruined my life." The security guard from the building next door was there in minutes. He asked my dad to leave. My dad muttered curses all the way to his truck, slammed the door, and peeled out. When the silence returned, I sat at my desk, staring at the spot where he'd been standing. Meanwhile, rumors reached me through old contacts. My family was falling apart. My dad lost his job at the plant after yelling at a supervisor. They said he almost got arrested. My mom barely left the house. Neighbors said she was sick and just wasn't the same. My brother's wife took their kids and moved in with her parents after she found out what happened. Everything they had built, that facade of a perfect family, was crumbling. People say karma is slow. I say it was right on time. One afternoon, my employee Kevin came in with a small box. "Boss, this was outside the door." Inside were letters, dozens of them. My name, Jackson Smith, was written on each in a shaky hand, with no return address. I didn't need to open them to know who they were from. My mom always had a flair for the dramatic with her handwriting. I took the box to the back room, set it on a shelf above the trash cans, and walked away. That night, I stood in my office, looking out the window toward where the letters were. I thought about all the words that were probably inside. Apologies, excuses, maybe Bible verses about forgiveness. But forgiveness is a luxury for people who haven't slept in their cars, wondering why no one believed them. I didn't want closure, I wanted distance. So I left the letters unopened. I kept them all in that box, under lock and key. They wanted forgiveness because it would lighten their burden, not because they deserved it. They didn't want me. They wanted redemption. And I wasn't going to give it to them. I looked up at the sky and muttered, "You erased me once. Now I'm erasing you for good." I thought that would be the end of it, but the past always finds a way to seep through the cracks. 3 months later, a plain white envelope arrived, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "And Williams requests to meet with you at the Maple Ridge Correctional Facility." I stared at it for a long time. The name looked strange on the paper, like it no longer had a place in my life. I threw it in the trash, took it out, then threw it away again. But the idea stuck. For 10 years, I had imagined what I would say to her if I ever saw her again. Maybe it was time to find out. A week later, I drove to the prison. 2 hours into the middle of nowhere. The guard at the entrance scanned my ID, buzzed me through, and led me to a gray room that smelled of disinfectant and old coffee. I sat at a metal table, my hands flat on its surface. Around me, people were talking in low voices, wives, kids, parents, all visiting someone they still loved. I wasn't one of them. She walked in. I almost didn't recognize her. She was thinner, almost brittle, with pale skin, her hair pulled back tightly, her face lined with exhaustion. The girl who had cried in front of our family, clutching her stomach and calling me a monster, now looked like a ghost. She sat across from me, glanced up for a second, then dropped her eyes to the table. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. I didn't answer. She twisted her hands in her lap. "You look different," she said after a while. "Older." "You look guilty," I said. Her eyes instantly welled up. "I deserve that." "No," I said calmly. "You deserve worse." She lowered her head slowly, tears already starting to fall. "I know. And I'm sorry for everything. For lying, for ruining your life. For all of it." "Why?" I asked. My voice was low but steady. "Why me?" She stared at the floor, trembling. "Because you were safe to blame. You were quiet. You never hit anyone. I knew everyone would believe me because you were the good one, the easy target. And I panicked." I leaned forward slightly. "You panicked, and you destroyed my life. You panicked, and you turned your own brother into a villain." Her shoulders shook. "I didn't think it would go that far. I thought you would deny it and people would forget. It would buy me time to fix it." "Time," I repeated. "You got a house full of people who loved you, protected you, threw you parties, while I was sleeping in a car behind a gas station." She covered her eyes with her hands. "I know. I know what I did." "Vernon," her breath hitched. "Vernon was the one who actually got me pregnant. He was a dealer. I was with him once. When I told him, he just laughed. Said I was crazy, that if I said anything, he'd disappear. And he did. I didn't know what to do. So I pointed at you, because you were there." I just stared at her. I didn't even feel angry anymore. Just empty. "You ruined my life," I said quietly. "Do you know you stole everything from me? My family, my girlfriend, my name. You turned me into a monster. You made me afraid to trust anyone ever again." She was sobbing now, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "I think about you every day in here," she whispered. "I hate myself for it. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see your face from that night." "Good," I said flatly. "I hope you always see it. I hope you never stop seeing it." She looked at me, desperate. "There's something else. My daughter. They never told her the truth. Mom said it would confuse her to change the story now. So she still thinks it was you." I stared, stunned, even though the truth was out. She nodded weakly. "They said she's too young to understand, and admitting they were wrong would just open old wounds. They'd rather keep the lie than face what they did. Sometimes she asks about you. She's seen old pictures of you from before. She wonders why you never came around." That hit harder than anything else. Somewhere out there was a kid, not mine, walking around with the same lie that destroyed me. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor. A few people looked over. "You don't have the right to tell me that," I said. "Don't dump this on me now as if I can fix it." She reached out a trembling hand. "I'm sorry, Jackson. Truly. I can't undo it. I just wanted you to know. I looked at her and felt nothing. No relief, no closure. Just the end of something. You stole 10 years from me, I said softly. I hope you never sleep peacefully again. She was crying hard now, choked words coming out. I deserve it, she said. All of it. I leaned down slightly, met her eyes one last time. Yes, you do. I turned and walked out. The guards didn't say anything as they opened the door. I got in my truck and just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the chain-link fence. I thought I would feel free after seeing her, like I had won. But I didn't. There was no victory, only exhaustion. Some things don't get fixed when the truth comes out. Some things just stay broken, even when you don't care anymore. But as I started the engine and drove away, I realized something. Leaving without forgiving, without exploding, just leaving. That was a different kind of power. For the first time, I didn't feel erased. I felt finished. A year has passed since that prison visit, and life has finally fallen into place. I sold my small house and bought a decent one on the outskirts of town. 3 bedrooms, a fenced-in yard, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every wall, every nail, paid for with work I earned myself. Then Rachel came along. I met her through a client. She was a graphic designer who came to redo my company's logo. I wasn't planning on dating anyone, but she had a calm about her that just clicked with me. She didn't ask much about my past, just said, whatever it was, you're not that kid anymore. We've been together for a year. She moved in with her cat, and I adopted a rescue dog, Edgar. Between the 3 of them, the house finally feels alive. Work, Rachel, Edgar. Peace. One morning, an envelope arrived with no return address. My stomach tightened. I thought it was another apology from my family, but when I opened it, the name stopped me. David Kenderson. The second guy and had accused. His handwriting was neat and the note was short. Mr. Winter, I am filing a civil suit against N. Williams for defamation and emotional distress. You deserve justice, too. My lawyer says your testimony would help us both. If you're interested, please call me. I read it twice. I called him that same afternoon. We met at a coffee shop the next day. He was about my age, maybe a couple of years older. He shook my hand like we'd known each other forever. Weird, isn't it, he said. Being connected by something that screwed us both over. Yeah, I said. But I guess we both survived. We talked for an hour about everything. When he asked if I would join the lawsuit, I didn't hesitate. I'm in, I said. The trial took months, but this time, I didn't run or hide. I went to court, sat across from Anne, and told the truth. Calmly, firmly, without anger. I didn't even look at them when I spoke. The lawyers laid it all out, the false accusations, the manipulation, the emotional damage, the proof that she had done it twice. When the judge delivered the verdict, the courtroom was silent. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt lighter than I ever had. My name was officially cleared, but it was more than that. It was like a ghost had finally stopped following me. For the first time, my name wasn't buried in shame. It was next to words like truth, justice, vindication. Then the voicemail came. It was late, almost midnight. I was finishing up invoices at the office when my phone vibrated. Unknown number, the old area code. I almost ignored it, but it went to voicemail, and something made me listen. Son. It's Dad. I don't know if this is still your number. Your mother found it online. I don't have much time left. The doctors are saying cancer. Stage 4. I don't want anything. I swear. I just want to see you one last time before it's too late. The message ended with a long pause and a shaky breath. Please. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, son. I stood there for a minute, just looking at the phone. I played it again, and then I deleted it. Not out of anger, not out of revenge. Just nothing. I remembered the night he hit me, the look in his eyes when he said I wasn't his son anymore. I remembered sleeping in my car behind the gas station, the taste of blood and rain in my mouth. He chose his truth back then. Now, I was choosing mine. They threw me out into the cold once, I murmured to myself. Now I fix the air for other people. Ironic, I guess. And peaceful. They erased me once, but I rebuilt myself. And this time, my story ends how I want it to, steady, quiet, and always moving forward. YouTube just launched this new hype feature. If you got hooked on the story, hit the hype button. It tells YouTube, this video deserves to blow up.